So, this is the saga of PSG. PSG stands for Hamato Security Group. That was fun. Okay. Deferring taxes and keeping it real. But who is that? Yes. Ruggedly handsome. I quote my sources. I've got some free time on my hands for the last couple of years, so I've been doing some research into cybersecurity and behavioral science. So I'm the scholar in residence at the Clemson University's Center for, anyway, buy my books. That's what that's I've written 3 books. It's fine. I know none of you read them. It's fine. I've seen it. You did?
Yes, I did.
You're my favorite now. That's it. So, what kind of is bad about this is that my wife also wrote a book. And here's what this lady did. I've probably spent tens of thousands of dollars in marketing over the last couple of years trying to push my books. She published, and day one got bestseller of the business risk category. So she's doing better, basically. So I've decided to stop writing books and support her. 20 years in cybersecurity, 13 years as an entrepreneur with multiple companies that I've attempted to do. The only ones that make money are cybersecurity companies. My wife has said, please, please, for the love of God, stop starting companies that aren't in cybersecurity. So she's the boss of me. Currently on a mission to make sure you people don't waste spend a lot of money on taxes. But a disclaimer, I am not a lawyer, though I look like one.
A ruggedly handsome one, might I add.
Wrong road. I'm not a lawyer, and I'm definitely not a CPA. So a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about has questionable legal things and questionable bookkeeping things. So this is a concept talk. Don't just do what I did without an adult. That was a disclaimer. All right, so what is business? What is the journey of entrepreneurship? To me, that's 4 different phases. Business is happening to me, meaning I'm starting a business up. Something has gotten me over my apathy. I started a company. Business is happening by me. It means I'm the hero. I'm the one doing all this stuff. If I don't show up, the company's probably not going to make money. Business is happening through me. I've become a real CEO, and I manage vision, I manage capitalization, and I manage, I should be using yours. I'm not going to. And team building, culture. We use culture. And by this point, you don't necessarily have to be at the company, but the goal is for us to get to the businesses happening for me. I got there 4 years ago, fired myself as the CEO, and I had various other presidents run the company. That was very helpful because when I did sell, I was able to say, no, there's no need for an earnout because I am absolutely not necessary for this company. It runs by itself. This is kind of vanilla. So I like using other people's work, and there's a fantastic business consultant that I've subscribed to recently, and I suggest that you binge consume his stuff. It's Eric Cartman from South Park. So he has the same 4 points where you're going to start up, cash in, sell out, then bro down. And so you want to get to bro down as fast as you possibly can. No, not actually. It doesn't matter where you're on this process, right? You may not ever sell your company. You may not, that might not be your goal. You might want to have a multiple generational, I mean, there's nothing wrong with being in any of these phases. So what I'm talking about is how I got to get out of my company and into the bro down stage. And if you come up to me later today and say, Adam, tell me about bro down, make sure you have a beer in your hand. Forgot I put that slide in there. Just Googled bro down and it came up with Pittsburgh. So that's the only reason that's there. All right, so like any truly impressive story, it's about love. And because I'm a very good speaker, I'm going to move to the other side now to keep you engaged visually. Once upon a time, there was a $35 billion grocery holding company that fell in love with another $30 billion. Yep. And they got together. And they created a $70 billion company with a truly unfortunate logo. No idea what's going on there. All right? Just because you have money doesn't mean you're making good decisions. So here's the thing. They only wanted to work with global companies. They only wanted to have procurement work with other global companies like IBM and HP because they have flawless execution because they're a global company. Net is there were two companies at Ahold, my company, Palmetto Security Group, and then the acquirer, Secure IT, who handle different sides of the oceans. And they basically said, if you guys don't find a way to act as one, we're going to give all of your work to IBM, despite the fact we know they're going to turn right around and contract you guys back to do the work, because we want one throat to choke, is what they said. So we had tried this before. Neither one of our companies was big enough to do a joint venture. We had different kind of goals. Mine was more of a lifestyle type company where I'm building other companies. Rob really wanted to grow his company. So we got together in Tampa and we decided, all right, this is going to be an acquisition. It's not going to be a merger. Secure IT, you're going to buy us. And there can only be one dad, and that's not it. I want to be like real dad. I want to be fun dad who comes back later and be like, hey, who wants to go out and party? And they're like, yay, we love real dad. And I want you to be stepdad who runs the thing, okay? So that's what happened. We decided to go all in, and in 2016, we started the process of the acquisition. This is where the problem started. All right? So I had a verbal from Rob about how he was going to do the valuation. And he's like, well, we'll do 3 times EBITDA or 1 times revenue. And that's pretty simple because, you know, we have the exact same companies. It's going to be fine. And I was like, sure, sounds good. 3 times EBITDA. We can argue about the clawbacks. We can argue about all this stuff. But, you know, 1 times revenue is about the same for this company, this kind of company. That's cool. He came back at 50% of that number. So I don't have a picture of Rob, but that's Margaret Thatcher. She was the Prime Minister of England, and she will be a recurring character. So here's me. I was like, oh, no, I got an immediate emotional reaction. Some of you might have seen Frozen, but I was done. I was like, we're gonna take this guy out. I'm gonna double down. We're gonna reinvest in the company. We're going to war. We're gonna storm Normandy and then make our way up to Holland because I don't know how to. Well, anyway, it didn't make a lot of sense because there was emotion. So I had an adult in the middle, and this adult said, no, this is normal. This is exactly how this thing goes. His bankers are doing this, and he began to explain it. And then he suggested I use a tactic that I'm going to suggest you use as well. It's outside of my wheelhouse, but he used something called data and facts. And then he explained the situation, and over the course of some time, we got to the price we were looking for. But it really came back to how did I decide what price I wanted to set, because no matter how well this thing went, it wouldn't have been enough money. Well, I think the term is fuck you money, right? You can't just walk away into the sunset with your middle finger in the air. This was booger money. Booger money. Oh, I like that. Okay. So I was setting my price based off of what did I want to do next. And so we spent some time calculating what that looked like. I lived in spreadsheets. It was not my favorite time of my life. But actually, when you put the big enough numbers in there, those spreadsheets can be fun too. So I set my price. Oh, my baby was ugly. That's my note. I had 90% of my revenue in one customer. This big whale. And this big whale's threatening and taking my business away. So there was not going to be another shot at this acquisition. Nobody was going to want to buy my company. So other than Rob or Margaret Thatcher. So I was a motivated seller. A lot of you know I was emotionally done with the company. I think the last 17 national summits, even before I was a member, I was bitching about the company. I think 2 go around. There's a gentleman, Jeff Bannister. I don't know if any of you know him. Let's see if I can do his quote correctly. Boy, sell the damn company. We're tired of hearing you bitch about it. So I did. My floor to do what I needed to do, to have the runway I wanted to have the funds to reinvest, turned out to be 1.5 million. That's what I was shooting for. We got to 1.7 with 1.2 up front and 500K being paid out over the course of 3 years. And that 500K is not set on any goals. It's just personally guaranteed coming in. So there's no earn out. It's just, I guess it's an earn out, but I went into this assuming I'd never see that money. But the way we have it set up, it's personally guaranteed and it'll just come in. So about 133 a year after that. It didn't fit the model he said. This valuation of 3 times EBITDA or 1 year revenue, I should have pulled in probably 2.5 to 2.6 million. And that's lower. The reason I was willing to take such a low valuation is because I had the ugly baby. So valuating the company, organizing your deal flow, all this stuff, it's going to be based not off of the spreadsheets, but really on the conversations you're having with the acquirer and how you guys agree on the facts. And we both agreed that my baby was ugly. So the math looked good on my spreadsheets. I got my floor, I hit my number. Oh yeah. And then taxes, what? Oh, I knew I forgot something. Oh, God, my number's wrong. I'm not gonna have the fun I thought I was gonna have. I'll probably have to get a job. I'm never gonna get a job. So we ran the numbers, and my tax rate came out to be about 28%, and that was gonna suck. I didn't want to pay it. I wanted to redeploy that money into other projects. So we looked at a lot of different ways. There's a concept with real estate where you sell the house and then you roll it over and you don't pay the taxes, right? So we were looking at doing that kind of thing for the business. Couldn't do it because I didn't have enough assets. We're a professional services company. Selling the assets is just not going to work. So I couldn't do that. Looked at setting up a trust, and that was just completely horrible. The mechanisms, putting it together, how I get access to the money, the lack of control that you have to have in order to have a trust basically meant I couldn't do what I wanted to do. I was going to have a financial advisor control the money, and there would be so many hops and skips. So instead, I did something called a custom structured settlement, which allows me to set up my own private equity fund and then control that money as a fund manager. Well, that sounded impressive. Why don't we look at what this actually means? Numbers. This is a hypothetical that just happened to be pretty close to where we're at. So this company went in and ran through this stuff. So they want to prove that by setting up a fund that I could redeploy the money that I would have paid for taxes and then slowly pay those taxes out of the profits of the other company. And their ballpark was $300,078. They're running it on state and local from South Carolina. Didn't have any of these things, no depreciation, no income off of the net investments. And this is where they came out with that if I did this, after fees, I would land with 1.9 million. Remember, this is hypothetical. This company would have landed with 1.9 million. And if you paid all the taxes, you would have been left with 1.5. So, I want to reiterate, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a CPA. This is only legal to do exactly what I did if you set the organization up to be an investment entity. So we had to, and I'll jump into what we did, but to really hammer this home, because I can tell a lot of you guys are distracted, Matt Ray, and I want folks to pay attention. So here's Margaret Thatcher again. She's going to help you know that this is serious. Margaret Thatcher wouldn't be pointing unless it was serious. Thanks, Margaret. I was bored. It's just like, oh, these are cool pictures. I should put them in. So here's how the deal worked. The first step is I converted the company to a C Corp. I sold 99% of the company to CSS, S Corp, S Corp, not C Corp. That's, you can trust but verify. That was a quiz. Good job. You win a book. Yeah, it's $2.99. Leave a 5-star review. Amazon.
What was it previously?
It was a LLC. So it was LLC. I converted over to an S Corp. I sold 99% of the company to the CSS entity. It's still the same legal entity. I still own Palmetto Security Group. I changed the stocks to only my stock being voting stock. Everyone else is just along for the ride. So I'm managing the whole thing with my 1%. I sold that 99% to CSS for the amount of the buyout. So they then cut me a note, a loan, sorry, they cut me a note against all of that. So as the money goes into PSG, the note valuation is changing, and I own the debt on that company. So and here's the good news. Because it was an asset-based sale, we got a surprise $470,000 in accounts receivable that hit my bank account that I wasn't planning. So now I felt like I was really good because I sold for over $2 million. It's all right. You can, that's all right. So 2.1. And then, so I'm in security, and it may not seem like it, but I take controls pretty seriously. I don't give a rat's ass about your policies. I want to know how you're enforcing those policies. So I was very worried that someone else was going to be able to touch my money, right? So what if I am 100% owner of the only voting stock? So what if I've got all these controls in place? Some fool could make a mistake and accidentally send it away. So I am the only signer on the bank account. I am the only one who has permission to do anything with the money. We put everything locked up under my stuff. So that's one of the controls I put in place is I don't have a controller that has access. There's no other human beings who can touch the stuff except for me. So I'm a single point of failure, and I probably need to rectify that. But at least for now, we're safe. So then we are in the process of converting it back to an LLC so that I can have more control. It's just easier that way. So here's the results. I never took possession of the money, and since it's not an LLC, it didn't pass through, so it never hit my bank accounts, and it's never a taxable event. I still will have to pay money on that. I still have to pay taxes on that money someday. But now that I have that note on it, if anything goes sideways, and for some reason I've got to take that money, I call the note and immediately get the money because it's still in my bank account, and I just pay the taxes. So worst case scenario, I think this whole process cost me about $45,000 to do, and that's what I would be out. So to me, it was a risk I was willing to take in order to deploy that money again. So PSG is now a kind of my own PE fund, and I cut loans to my other ventures, and I pay myself out of those other ventures. It's pretty slick. Does that make sense so far? Good. Oh, I like it. So I'm going to give you some advice, but can anyone identify who this person is? Yeah. What do we know about her in football? Yeah, she pulls it up and so don't trust her. Trust Margaret Thatcher. She's going to give you some advice in my words. Don't do this alone. Find an adult. My adult was Kent. Kent may not be the best fit for you. Find yourself an adult that makes it so that when you have those emotional reactions during this process, somebody sane who doesn't really have a dog in the fight is going to help you stay on track. One of the hardest things was getting to the finish line. One of the reasons it was hard, at least for me, is I had nothing to do. I had to sit and wait. I had to develop hobbies. I had to distract myself for a year because somebody else is running my company, somebody else is running my deal. I only have touch points once or twice a month to get updates on what's going on. We call this living in the void, where you have the ultimate amount of free time and no idea what to do with it, and you've just flushed your identity down the toilet because you're no longer a big deal, right? So that was psychological warfare. One of the things I did to help with that is I really leaned into my marriage. My wife, who is better than I am, not only in book sales, but just in general, was fantastic. So being prepared for the fact that these things do not happen overnight, I think it took a full year from the time we decided that we were going to sell, shook hands, to where the papers were signed and we walked out.